Hello and welcome to the big top type workshop thing on this glorious autumn day. And here is my early Christmas present from my wife. I've got an hour or so to have a look at this today because she's inside watching Towie or Real Housewives of Doncaster or whatever it is she watches. So we'll have a quick look over it and see what it's all about. Now this is it was sold to me as a 1958 Achilles Lido. However, I think it's actually an early 60s Norman Nippy Mark IV. And the reason I think that is because, if you have a look at this engine, look, it's a Villiers. Now, Achilles only put Sachs engines in their bikes, and when they sold the tooling and everything to make these to Norman in, I think it was 1959-ish, roughly, Norman continued to put Sachs motors in them for a little bit, and then the Sachs became an option because Villiers decided they were going to make an engine so that they didn't have to import a German engine for a British bike, even though actually it was a German bike originally. So that's what I think this is. The reason I think it's a Mark IV is because it's got the fuel tank in the frame, it's got a rear suspension on shocks, and it should have, well, the missing parts on it. Let's go straight onto that bit, shall we? Oh yeah, it's got leading link front suspension as well, which is quite cool. So this thing has got a missing headlight and headlight cowl. It's also missing the toolbox cover, which should be on there. I do have the carburettor. I've taken it off at the moment, but the top of it's missing. And they seem to be very hard to come by. So it's also missing the pedal arms, which make it very difficult to test it out. Now it is seized. Hopefully it's only seized at the piston, and I'm going to try and unseize it today. A couple of other things about it. Inside the tank looks pretty good, but it does look like it's had a liner in it, so I'll have to check that out with the endoscope later on. A few things I like about it. 2-speed hand change, so it has gears. I love the complete lack of speedo there. There's a blank. On the higher up models, I think the Norman Lido, as an option you could have a clock here, but this one, not even a speedo, just a 50s blank, which is quite awesome. This exhaust has this brilliant little deflector spoon thing on the end, which I love. It's got a rear coaster brake that runs off the pedals. I just love the general look of it. It's a nice 50s looking thing. I'd have loved a Norman Lido or an Achilles Lido, the proper ones, they have like a really space age looking cowling around the engine in tin with all perforations in it. It looks bloody brilliant. This one, however, just has a bit of bent steel. But never mind, you know, it's all good. Right, so I'm going to take the top off the engine now, and it's been sitting in WD-40 down the bore for about a week, and then 3 days ago I found this stuff in amongst my various random aerosols, $3.99. So yeah, I've topped it up with that as well. It's got graphite in it apparently, which is supposed to be good. I didn't even realise that. So yeah, let's see if we can try and beat it okay again. I've also got somewhere a broom handle that I bought yesterday, so I'm going to try using that to knock it down. I was using a ratchet with a rubber end, but I don't want to knacker my ratchet up basically, and for £1.50 I thought I'd get a wooden broom handle. So I'll go and find that, cut it down to size, and come back to you. Right, so I've got the cylinder head off. And here it is, look at that spark plug. How gnarly is that? I mean, that's had a hard life on it, but it's a Champion J8. So that's good to know. Don't have to look that up. As you can see down here, look, we've got all the, I've sprayed some more of this stuff. Get in there, into the bore, and let that sit for a few minutes. And basically, I've just got to take the flywheel cover off, and then I can hopefully try and rotate it by hand while I'm beating it. So, trying to beat the cylinder down. So, we'll have a look at that next. This screw's coming off quite easily, so how stripped out it looks on the head. Notice I can use two hands this time. Got a tripod. I found it in the loft. My old one. So we're sorted. And my old camera to go with it. Everyone's a winner. So there's one screw. Now this is a Villiers 3K motor, which is the only 50cc one that Villiers did to my knowledge. At least on motorcycles. They might have done one for stationary engines or lawnmowers and things. But so far the only parts I've managed to find for it are gaskets, which is good in a way, because always need gaskets, but also not so good, because it's going to at least need pedal arms. It might need other things as well. Now, going back to the job in hand, it does look a little bit like there's a drain plug up here. I don't really understand this, because there's a fill plug up here, which makes me think that this is the flywheel side. Sorry, the clutch side, but then there's the other half of the spark plug in there. The electrics are all from this side as well, so I don't know if it's both. Surely the flywheel's not in oil, but I'll have to go get something to catch the oil in, because it does look from that last screw like it's covered in oil. Right, we have one of my super handy ice cream tubs. It's supposed to have ratchets in it, but now it's going to have oil in it, hopefully. Don't know how we're going to do that, because the stand's in the way. I suppose at least if we catch most of it, that's the main thing. Assuming there is any oil going to come out, which it looks like maybe a false alarm. Only just goes past the chain cover. Aha! This looks like fun. Oh, I see. So the fill plug actually goes into the crankcase, weirdly, and doesn't actually touch this bit. There's the flywheel. I've got to say, the electricals are looking slightly poor, and it doesn't turn at all. Maybe it's still worth a go at breaking the piston free, but maybe not. So, here's my dowel that I've made out of a broom handle. I'm going to get splashed with stuff. Right, don't seem to have any movement yet. Let's try again. Trying to hit the bike while I'm doing it. Felt like a bit of movement, but actually it's just the end of that denting in. Let's try again. Bits coming off my dowel. Well, plan A didn't work so well. In fact, if anything, I'm probably just squashing in the crown of the piston, and then it's not going to ever move. So, I guess the next thing to do is engine off, and see if it can do it with the engine removed. So, to remove the engine, it looks like, look at those bolts, good God. It looks like there's a couple of bolts there holding that bracket on, same there, and down here. Then there's the cables, that's your gear selector cable, and the clutch cable, which probably means taking the clutch apart, and then see what we can do with it from there. So that's the next job.